Hi, STAM. We come to you with a little mini session / preview for Fall 2021 conference. This is Ask a Music Teacher. So I'm Katie Kolster, and I teach theater at Raytown High School.
I'm Alex Kolster, and I teach choir at Raytown High School and serve as our district fine arts coordinator.
I'm Dr. Jordan Cox, and I am the chair of the Fine Arts Division and director of choral activities at Missouri Baptist University.
And I'm Kasey Cox. I'm director of theater and dance and assistant professor of theater at Missouri Baptist University.
And before we get started, so we're just gonna ask a couple questions of these guys. But Kasey and I also want to make it clear that even though we're married to these guys and we work right alongside them, that does not mean we work in perfect. So you like that music fun? So there are always conflicts in our working relationships, and so they're going to answer to us as a music director, even if it would mean something that wouldn't work well for us. So, we wanted to make sure that we were really honest with you, because we know a lot of you might have this similar issues working alongside your music director or alongside any other colleagues when you're building a musical. And so the first question is, what are your priorities when selecting a musical for your program? And is that something you get to collaborate with the director on? What's that process like for you?
Well, I'd say our process is very collaborative. We have a lot of conversations about the shows that we choose for kids. But the big thing is to focus on choosing a show that's going to be right for our kids when it comes to the music and their ability levels and the unique individuals that we have in our program. You want to be careful not to choose a show where you know that you're going to have music or certain songs or roles that are going to be, beyond what some of our students are capable of. Because let's be honest, a lot of these musicals are written for professionals, which makes it really challenging. So making sure we choose a show that we know will challenge kids, but that they'll be able to handle and prepare at a high level.
Yeah, I just agree with Alex on that one. I think finding a show that's a really good fit for everybody. I always try to have a few different casting ideas in mind. If they can fit that, we talk a lot about, do you think the tessitura, the range is too high or anything like that? Do you think they can vocally handle it? But a lot of the same.
So my turn. I'm going to start with Jordan. What do you need from a director before rehearsals begin?
I think the biggest thing I need is just to know my role in the process. I've worked with you, but then also other directors, and just needing to know, am I the music director, and what's your expectation for that? Am I in charge of getting the orchestra? Am I in charge of just vocal directing? Am I in charge of everything music, or am I just coming in at certain times? And then I think the other thing is the rehearsal plan. How many rehearsals am I going to have? And how much do you want me to be in charge of?
Yeah, I think knowing, like what Jordan said, with just knowing like how much time are we going to have this week over the coming weeks to work on music, because that really helps us as music directors really pace out the time we spend on the music. But also, sometimes when you get deep into those scores, you realize that there might be an ensemble in the show, but there might be these smaller sort of subgroups. You have this group of dancers or this group of townspeople, and it's really important for us to know ahead of time who will be in each scene and who will be on stage, because that will help us determine, okay, how many kids are going to be singing this part. How should we divide up the kids into parts? Just the more that we can plan ahead for rehearsal, the less decisions we're making on the spot and the smoother of a rehearsal.
I also think something you mentioned that has always been a thing, communicate about choreography. That are going to be heavily choreographed, like this song we're going to spend our dollars on, right? Making sure it's great. We're going to have kids doing Can't Stop the Beat, or is the point going to be we just need to hear some words out of their mouths? And so like finding the balance of choreography and music, and then making sure you two talk to make sure that scores match, and we're not just choreographing to soundtracks.
Right, because often the score has many changes. The soundtrack actually is very different than the score. It's usually shorter, it's more abridged. So when choreographing or planning for these types of songs, you always want to look at the score. It's always going to be the most accurate thing to look at.
Yeah. Next question. This is kind of more open-ended. What's a big issue that you tend to run into when directing a musical, and what maybe is a solution you have found to that obstacle. It's kind of open-ended here.
I think I mean, really, we haven't had a ton of issues, but I think some issues we've run into where we've had some differences is um, casting. You know, sometimes in the casting process, we'll be going back and forth about we have this one role, we have these two people, just one of us wants one person, one of us wants the other. And it's really easy to get very emotional about that. You want to be right. And I think where we have some value is the musical side of things, determining, okay, vocally, which role would be, or which actor would be best for this role. And I think, you know, when it comes down to it, no matter what I want, my view is that I'm the music director and I'm there to serve vision, the overall vision of the director. So, you know, if I will give my advice and give my opinion of who should be cast in which roles, but ultimately, I think if everyone just understands their role and I understand that I'm there to serve the director, it's easier to not get so emotionally attached to those decisions and to just support.
Yeah, I think piggybacking off that, oftentimes Kasey values acting chops, whereas I value more the musical or the singing chops. And so sometimes we would go different ways depending on the strengths of the students. The other thing I thought of was challenges in just the musical score of too much Divisi.
Oh my gosh.
Times, yeah, it's like you don't always have your strongest vocalists in your ensemble, and then you're trying to get your ensemble to sing in 6 parts. That's just not realistic. And so just finding ways to chop that down and just singing melody or 2-part or 3-part, keeping it simpler so it sounds stronger and more powerful for the skills of that group.
I I have to agree with you 100%. Oh my gosh, especially because a lot of the music is, you know, there are very few true bass and baritone parts too.
Yeah.
So we're saying, hey, you're going to sing this down an octave, and we're going to cut this part, and you're going to double. You know, we kind of have to take it in our own direction to make it work for our kids.
So that would be something you need as a director, is you need that score in your hand long before music begins.
And an understanding of your kids' ranges. That's really good to determine as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So a question that I had is how involved do you want your director to be during the actual music rehearsal? So, you know, I've had some music directors that they're fine if I just sort of sit back and I'm maybe talking with stage management while they're rehearsing the pieces. I've had some music directors that want me to hop in and they want me to know, you know, how I would like the parts divided and things like that. So what are you guys' preferences? How do you work best?
I think for me, I'd rather just run with it, especially if I've had time to talk with you beforehand, or if I can just go ahead and make a decision in the moment and then talk about it with you later. I think that's a little bit easier. I think sometimes we've run into the issue of if we're both there and we're both chiming in, then it's like, who's really the leader? Who's really in charge in this moment? So if you want to be around, that's great. Go in the other room. And we can figure it out later if it's a decision, because usually you're okay with what I decide, but then we end up spending time second guessing each other. Whereas if we just embraced being the leader in that moment, we were better off that way.
Yeah, for me, I think it's really good to have the director present just as a resource for me. You know, if I'm working on whatever song and there's a chorus of townspeople, sometimes I might say, hey, Katie, okay, remind me, who is on stage at this point? Is my really good all-state tenor, is he on stage at this point, or is he backstage changing? You know, because we will sometimes have kids sing off stage, but you know, there might be a quick costume change, or they might be having to do something else. So it helps me get a picture of, okay, who's on stage right now, of this cast in front of me, which singers are actually going to be singing this.
And a lot of times the kids don't even really know yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we just wanted to ask these 4 quick questions, do like a quick 10-minute like Katie said, preview of what we're hoping to do in the fall when we're all together and live. So please be thinking about questions that you might have, that you might want to ask one of these two guys. Obviously, we know how we work best with them, but they are a wealth of knowledge about musical directing, musical theater. And so we look forward to seeing you all in the fall and hope to see you all at our session. Bye.